Van Deeb, a dynamic leader with decades of experience building companies and crushing sales. He's been there and done that.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. My name is Van Deeb.
Inspiring audiences across the country to do it too. Here's Van.
Welcome back, everybody, to my podcast. Today we're going to talk about disruptors. So you've heard people say disruptors have more fun. Well, would you like to be a disruptor? So you might think being called a disruptor has a negative connotation. Well, in the business world, it's actually quite the opposite. And in my world, being called a disruptor, I take that as a compliment. I want people to call me a disruptor in my industry. So if you look up the definition of disruptive innovation, okay? It says it's a term in the field of business administration. Now, this is a definition which refers to an innovation that creates a new market and value network and eventually disrupts an existing market and a value network, displacing established market-leading firms, products, and alliances. So when I say it's a compliment, I want people to look at me as being innovative, creative, making changes in an industry that is known for doing things a certain way. So my personal definition of being a disruptor is someone who changes things for the better, someone who blazes their own trail, someone who doesn't follow a worn path. Instead, we create our own. So, when I think of a disruptor and I think of some of the icons out there in the business world that I really look up to, I think you all agree with me that Steve Jobs was considered a disruptor. And I like to give his part of his speech when I do commencements or when I do speeches that is in front of groups of entrepreneurs, but I like to get this segment. So Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, this is one of my favorite segments of his speech. He says, "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that do." Man, I tell you what, that gives me chills. I've read this, I can't tell you how many times, and it gives me chills. To me, this is the definition of a disruptor. So you ask me, Van, what makes you a disruptor? So let me just give you a brief. When I entered the real estate industry in 1983, back when Abraham Lincoln was president. Okay, I'm not that old. And once I learned the fundamentals of the industry, I realized I didn't want to be categorized as one of the thousands of real estate agents all conducting business the same way. I knew I wanted to be different. I wanted to be unique. I wanted to be everything but ordinary. So I like to quote Guy Kawasaki. He says, "Want to change the world? Upset the status quo. This takes more than run-of-the-mill relationships. You need to make people dream the same dream that you do." I really like that. And that was kind of my mindset back in 1983. So once again, back in 83, I was one of the first real estate agents ever, believe it or not, to plaster my face on billboards. And I would put bold quotes bragging about my services. So it wouldn't be unusual to drive down a busy street and see my face on the billboard and a bold quote that says, "You deserve my service." Because nobody else was doing it. Nobody else was being that bold, and nobody else had billboards. Ladies and gentlemen, I raised a lot of eyebrows with my unique marketing. I would call it unconventional, to say the least. And I kept that theme throughout my whole career. I wanted to be known as, this guy does things differently than the normal real estate agent. So moving forward, 10 years later, I opened up Deeb Realty. I implemented programs and procedures that disrupted the industry, totally disrupted the industry. And it was because the programs I implemented would change the way realtors did business and the way that their brokers treated their agents. So my company, Deeb Realty, became the hunted very quickly. And you want to know one of the big reasons why I became the hunted? Because we did the things that all the other brokers were afraid to do. We were not afraid to do things that the other brokers were scared to do. Pure and simple, we allowed our agents to do what they wanted to do to conduct business their way, of course, within reason and ethical. And we also treated our agents like they owned the company. Believe it or not, when I tell you this, those two areas alone totally disrupted the real estate industry because we let the agents be what they are, independent contractors. If an agent came into my office and said, "Hey, this would really help me build my business," I would say, "Let's do it." As long as it was legal and ethical, I wanted them to have the ability to do what they wanted to do. Like Heather Simmons says, those who disrupt their industries change consumer behavior, alter economics, and transform lives. That's what I was trying to do at my real estate company. We let people do what they felt was best for them to build their business. So let's just briefly talk about becoming a disruptor. First of all, you can't become a disruptor without first understanding the ABCs of being successful in business. You have to have a clear picture of what it takes to be successful in business before you can be a disruptor. Because how do you know what to change if you don't know what the fundamentals of being in business are? So my question to you is, what can you do to be a disruptor in your industry? Honestly, what can you do? Think about it. What can you do to stand out in the crowd, to be labeled creative, innovative, forward-thinking? So ask yourself these questions. And those of you know, I like you to have a pad and pen when you're listening to my podcast because I want you to take notes. I'm not here just to get you fired up right now. I want to give you application and theory so you can go back 6 months later and look at your notes. So here's a question to ask yourself. What are you doing to stand out of the crowd in your industry? Okay? When was the last time you stepped out of your comfort zone and tried something new? Ask yourself this. Are you willing to be an expert at the fundamentals? Like, this is going to sound crazy, but today, this is considered being an expert at fundamentals. You know what they are? Returning texts in a timely manner, returning emails and phone calls promptly, and be a rock star at customer service. Can you believe that that is labeled as being an expert at fundamentals when you do that correctly? Ask yourself this. Are your goals too easy to obtain? Are you waking up every day to challenge yourself enough? When was the last time you challenged yourself to get better? When your competitors are looking at you and asking why, are you looking back at them and saying, why not? I'm telling you, when you learn the basics and the fundamentals of becoming successful, and then put that disruptor twist in there to be unique in your field, watch what happens to your business. You know, Elon Musk, everybody knows Elon Musk. He said, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Well, you know what? Disruptors' odds are not in their favor, or else they wouldn't be called a disruptor. So, in my opinion, in order to be a successful disruptor, you must have a disruptor attitude. My philosophy was, and this is still in my career as a speaker, and I'm still pushing real estate. My philosophy was, if it made sense for my employees and my agents and made it easier for them to be successful, then I was going to do it. If it was good for them, it was better for me. You must be confident in what you believe in, though. You must be driven to see it through. I would say one of the characteristics for me was I didn't look for approval from anyone to change the way real estate was sold in my hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. As long as it was legal, we didn't break any ethical or state laws, I was going to do it. My attitude was and always will be, if not now, then when? And if not me, then who? I'm not waiting for somebody to change things. If I want to make changes and be unique in my industry, I don't care what your business is. I guarantee you right now, if you grab a pen and paper and you think of ways that you can be unique in your industry, I guarantee you can come up with at least 5 things to be different than your competitor. I wanted my business model to be different than my competitors. What is interesting is that being unique in the trend center, let me say that word again. Being unique in a trend setter was less work than the traditional way of doing business. Why? Because it made sense to me. It made sense to me. Most disruptors agree that a disruptive business is likely to start by either satisfying the less demanding customers or creating a market where none existed before. So, one problem with identifying disruptors is that we often need lots of time to make real impact. So don't think this is going to happen overnight. The process is long. We're not talking weeks or months. Often a disruptor's business model looks completely different than what's already there. So it can be hard to see a disruptor in early stages. It took my company a couple of years for agents to see what all the excitement was about. And even more important, that the excitement was real. We disrupted the real estate industry by treating our agents like they were our customers, like they mattered. We made them feel important because they are. Believe it or not, none of my competitors were doing that. And frankly, I don't think they knew how. I will go on record of saying I believe there is true brilliance in being a successful disruptor. Our blueprint of treating people the way they should be treated was not easy to copy. It took my competitors forever to figure that out. So my question to you, once again, are you a disruptor? Would you like to be? So if you're one of those people that want to stand out in your industry, you want to be labeled as, man, that person is creative, innovative, he's not afraid to step out of his comfort zone. You want to be that person? Call me, email me. I'd love to coach you. I'd love to give you ideas on how to be the best you can possibly be and define the word disruptive. Ladies and gentlemen, life is not a dress rehearsal. If not now, when? And if not you, then who? Thanks for listening to this podcast on being disruptive. Now, please, please, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to my podcast. Thanks for stopping by today.
A Parkville Media Production.